Greetings shipmates and welcome to another episode of Let's Make Mistakes. Today we're going to be looking at the Tier 6 in an unfavourable Tier 8 matchmaking game. There's lots been talked about the ability to contribute to a game if you are in a lower tier CV, and unsurprisingly we are going to find that defensive AA from the other ships will cause us significant issues with our aircraft, but that does not mean that we can't contribute to the match. The changes, they're more representative of the higher tier games. Over the weekend you were seeing a lot of people talking about that CVs are now unplayable. They're not unplayable, and they now just require a little bit more skill to play than they did before, which was just fly around, drop your ordnance, do loads of damage without really any element of skill reward involved. That's changed now, which I think is probably for the better. There's still a long way to go, as we've said before, but that doesn't mean that you can't contribute to a match. An interesting conversation I had with somebody else, we was talking about should the CV just be in a support role, or should he still be able to do large amounts of damage. Now I think once the balance is right, they should be doing decent damage again. You should at least be able to do representative damage at your tier that you were able to do before, but without the big alpha damage. So we're more dots and death by 1,000 cuts than we were before, so we have to play a bit more accordingly. And as we can see, we've just gone through on our little scouting run, and already our planes have taken 2,400 damage from medium and long range fire. Most of that was from the kid. So we know we're in for a rough game, but that doesn't mean you just down tools and you don't do anything about it. You've got to adapt your gameplay accordingly. Now if you're in a tier 6 cruiser or a tier 6 destroyer, you don't just drive straight up the middle, blat everything and explode, because that's not going to contribute to the game, because a dead ship contributes nothing anymore other than noise in chat. So let's see what we can do about trying to help our team go on to win this match. It's not a big scoring game, certainly. It's an interesting game because of the way we had to go about our business, and as you can see at the start of this, we haven't actually shot at anything yet. We're just flying around keeping targets spotted for our team and seeing what we can do just to keep them lit and see if people actually want to fire at them. Now I know this kid was knocking around, so I've decided to fly back over this way just to see if he's advanced further. But I need to be mindful of the flat clouds that are going to start coming my way if he's still got his AA turned on, because the kid has defensive AA and it's a pretty dangerous little boat. We can see our planes are detected, so we know there's something knocking around within 10k, and there's the kid. And look at our health, we start at 3329 here. We lost a couple of planes. Just still trying to keep him spotted for a bit. Drop one lot of rockets off and then they're going to head off back, because his position he was in right now, we forced the fire. He got himself spotted, he started shooting at the lightning. As we can see on the mini-map, he's still alive. So as you can see right now on the bottom of the mini-map still, the mini-map is very important for a CV player, I've reversed my CV back. I've reversed it for now because I don't know. Ideally, what I'd like to be doing is pushing up with my teammates down the left or the right flank. But as we don't know what way we're going to go up the flank at the moment, or indeed if we're going to get pushed hard, I'm just going to keep the CV at station keeping for now, because I don't want to get it spotted. The Lexington's doing a good job supporting the team on the left-hand side, so I'm continuing to support the team on the right-hand side. Not sure why the Akatsuki felt the need to go straight for their base in a game with two CVs. Maybe he was going out for the afternoon, but unsurprisingly he's not going to last too long. I'm pretty sure from spotting this though, I did decide to try and get up and support him while heading up and spotting this New Orleans. So I'm keeping the planes close to the mountain. Because of the Orleans I can dive left and go down the other side of these mountains just to try and mitigate some of the AA damage these planes are going to take. But we're just going to keep an eye on what the New Orleans does as well. And if she turns, because we've got the torpedo bombers, we was looking to line up a run, but as she blew up, it wasn't so much of a problem. We've still got a couple of ships over here on our right hand side, on our right hand flank. The Akatsuki's gone in deep there, so I'm trying to get the fighter squadron up to him, because I can see the torpedo bombers coming from the Graf Zeppelin. Point of note there, those torpedoes are out and those Graf Zeppelin planes will not have spotted those for the Hipper, because planes don't do that anymore, so that is one plus. I think that's a positive. The torpedo bombers have moved away, and looking at the health, we thought it was still worth, at least I'll give him a try. I thought he might maybe stop in his smoke, because that would have been the sensible thing to do, and then I was providing the cover so he couldn't be torpedo dropped. Unfortunately, he's drifted out, he's got himself spotted, so I'm trying to push the Hipper away, trying to make him change course, just to give the Akatsuki a chance to disengage and get out of there. Again, we can see heavy AA, we're under fighters as well at the moment, so we're just going to move these away, slow down a little bit there, just to try and dodge some of the flak, get clear, and then we're going to send them back. Now if we watch the mini-map, we can see if they've made it out or not. Now I had cleared the flak, but unfortunately the AA fighters had finished off my plane, so there's nothing returning to the CV. And we're a little light on deck already now, so we're going to go up with some bombers. Now they are Ranger bombers, they're on the US line, so they're HE dive bombers. And we're going to just push back over here and just try and spot these ships that have gone quiet up there in the corner. At the moment, you see our damage output is nothing, because that's what we've contributed so far in damage to this game. Absolutely nothing. So far, we've managed to spot 6 ships, tried to help the Akatsuki out. We dropped some fighters there. They were lost. I think they were probably lost to the Hipper's AA, as opposed to the actually doing anything with the torpedo squadron that came in, and that was futile, but it was still worth the effort to try and save a teammate. As we're going to continue our way across, looking over the York again, I'm keeping mindful of where I can deploy fighters at the moment and watching what their CV's disposition is. They're not really concentrating too much on this flank at the moment because we've got 5 ships up there and the CV supporting them. If I go up there, I'm just going to lose fighters, I'm going to lose bombers, and there everything seems to be spotted at the moment. So I decided to concentrate on this half of the map, this half of the flank, just to help all these boys here get rid of these ships. Now, the one we was looking for was this Akatsuki. We wanted to keep an eye on him because of the King George. Now, we did make him turn away. Now, maybe or maybe not, we managed to stop the torpedoes. We do have the HE dive bomber, so it is worth going in. And the HEs don't do an awful lot, and we've managed to registered our first damage of the game, which isn't bad. 3,000 with dive bombers. He started to reverse off, so he's giving himself a nice target for the King George to hit, and our lightning up the top there has managed to get rid of a Colorado. Going in again on the Akatsuki, see if we can get him down, a bit more damage on him, another drop, and I think we went with no damage there. Now this was tricky getting out of there, so we pushed up, we'd lost the fighters, so we just headed back to the carrier. Because of the drop, we couldn't dive out and turn to the left, and that meant that we was always going to fly into the flat house. It was always going to be a suicidal run, but the point was we wanted to move the DD on from where he was and get him back out into the open, which we managed to succeed in doing. We've still got 4 ships there, they've still got 4 hiding in there, 3 hiding in there I should say rather well, but this Hipper up the middle was starting to cause some concern. As you'll notice, I'd started to move the CV forwards, so that's slowly on its way up there. It's just moving through J5 towards H8. So I'm going to have a little drive up, just going to keep an eye on what that Hipper does, because if he turns in, that's going to be a problem. We don't want him near the base. At the moment, the scores are pretty evenly poised, but looking at the top of the map, I think we're probably a little bit overextended up there, so we need to stop this push from happening down this side, because if they lose the ships up there, they're going to push the other side, then we're going to get flanked, and then we've got absolutely no chance whatsoever. We have the rockets, because we're looking for the DD, there he is, so we're going to commit to this run. Unfortunately our health bars have disappeared again, because this is a replay, so it's not very easy to see for some bizarre reason they go, but it's 2,000 damage, and you know, that's brought him down a little bit. Lexington's taking care of the King George up there, but the Akatsuki is doing the sensible thing. He's got his AA guns turned off, so we can't see him. We tried to run in again, but unfortunately the flak was too long. What we should have done was taken a wider arc around the AA and tried to come in from the front. But the issue there is if the Akatsuki had turned back to bow on or stern on, getting a good attack run would have been a lot more difficult to achieve. CV is changing course down the bottom. I've taken off with some torpedo bombers because we've got a squadron of those now, and we're going to head over and have a look at this Hipper because he's starting to threaten our position now, and that's a problem. Now this is a tier 8 Hipper, we are a tier 6 CV Ranger. As we can see, the AA is strong. We do hold a small points lead at the moment, but we are losing the battle for life up the top there. So now we just need to hold off. Now we are basically in a very full support role, which is to stop, because there's no ships in range to deal with this Hippo. It is me and the Lexington, and that's it. So we can get down on there. We send 2 planes down there and you drop 1 torpedo each at this tier, and luckily we get 1 of those in for 4,300 damage. We turn straight around, go back down again. We just need to keep on trying to do as much damage as we can, but as we can see again from the flat clouds, the amount of damage we take. So we try and just bring the planes out around this island just to try and mitigate some of the damage, avoid the AA bubble, and he's about clear from the AA now, and then, so we can just send him back to the CV, and the chances are he's going to make it back. If you go in on a bomb run now and you just press the F key immediately in the bomb run, your planes will still be attacked on the way out of the flat cloud, and as such you will lose most of your planes on the way out of the flat cloud. So it's more sensible, once you've completed your run, is to try and steer your planes clear of the flak. Once clear, then send them back to the CV, and they should make it back in one piece at that point. Not so easy, but that's the way it needs to be done now, which I think is for the better, because you're not just throwing away the planes, because otherwise your flight deck's light. You want to get them back, you want to get them rearmed, and you want to be able to use them again as quick as possible. So there's extra few seconds just to use a bit more skill and a little bit of luck to steer through the flak by changing course, changing speed, changing your position. See the weaving and dodging we're having to do to go through the Hippo here. But we should be able to get down. We're on the run now. We can get the HE into him, and we got another 3k and a fire, a couple of penetrations. Now how flak works is as it fires at you, it's predicting the course of your planes. So if you're holding a hard turn at the same speed, the chances are the flak bubbles are going to appear in front of you. So if you moderate your speed, increasing it, decreasing it, and pulling it out of the turn often, then you'll find that you'll be able to avoid, not all of it, but you'll be able to avoid a lot more of it easily. As you saw there, as we finished our bomb run there, we pulled up and away, and we've sent those ones. They've come straight back to the CV as we completed the bomb run. That was the best we could hope to do. We are losing, as you can see. That Hippo is still in the base. We did get a couple of fires on him, and he's pretty low in health now. So we've grabbed some rocket planes, and this was going to be this was just a committed squadron. I wasn't sure I was going to get these planes back, but he's on 600 hit points, and even a tier 6 against a tier 8 should be able to do enough rocket damage to finish him off. But fortunately the Lexington's done the job for us, and we can now turn around and focus our efforts on these group of 3 ships that are moving back towards us again. As we can see, we are losing this game at the moment. They've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ships left to our 5. Because they've touched our base as well, they had stopped our point scoring potential. And with the loss of the Lexington as well, I'm now on my own. I'm a tier 6 CV on my own, and everything outmatches me in every department. So what can we do? We can support our team, is the best we can do. I'm going to try and keep things spotted and pick these targets. The DD had managed to isolate himself, which was rather lucky, so we could get in on a rocket run on him, and we was able to delete him from the game, which removes a significant threat from our battleships at least. The Duke of York is pretty low as well, so I was lining up to come round on him, but getting through the Bismarck's flat clouds was proven to be quite challenging. We can see the damage we're taking already to our aircraft, and we were down to the last 2 and they were gone. So we had to pull out of those and let them come back on the run, and we'd have never made it to the York. And as it turned out, the Lexington had already had a fire on him before from his last lot of rocket planes in the sky. So just before he expired, he managed to get his rocket planes up and sent them over and took care of the Duke of York. So his parting ways were a thank you, and he contributed to saving this for us. Now, I did ask him there if he could drop the fighters over the Gunners, because he could still deploy his fighter squadrons, which is odd if the carrier's gone, but he tried. The Gunners has managed to get himself into range of the Bismarck. So this looks like a full-on secondary battle here, and the Bismarck's gone down as well. So now we're leading, but we are leading. They're going to have to come and do something about this for us. But with the Gunners under heavy fire, it's unlikely he's going to survive. Now, my plan was to drop some fighters off over the top of the Gunners just to support him, because they still have a CV in play up there. But as he was gone, he was gone. Admiral Snickers down there in chat has said he'll excuse himself from this fight, and the reason he's going to excuse himself from this fight is because he's got no health left. He is one rocket strike away from being out of this game, and at 3v3 we have a points deficit because they've been into our cap as well, and now the lightning's just turned up in our cap. We're in trouble. We are in trouble. So I was popping up to spot the Kutuzov, and then my plans changed immediately. I need to get back. Now the Bismarck is having to deal with the lightning because the York's got 182 hit points. If he goes in there and he goes down as well, recovering this game is going to be very, very difficult. So with our HE bombs we're going to run straight in here, and at worst we're just going to get this boy spotted for the Bismarck. The Bismarck secondary should be able to take care of him as long as he doesn't die. There's our lightning, he's just reversing off, so we do have the HE bombers. We are going to go in on him, and fortunately we were able to assist with deleting him, and that's another threat taken care of. But we're still losing. They've got 2 ships to our 3. Now York is critically low, their Ranger is sending planes down, so we need to be very, very careful about this, and we know the Kutuzov's knocking around. So I'm deploying here. You see I've dropped some fighters off over the Bismarck. I need to keep these guys alive. And there they go. That wasn't a mixture of my planes because there's no ribbons up the shop showing them down. Fortunately the Bismarck had taken care of business. So their Ranger tier 6 versus our Ranger tier 6. I asked the York to stay reasonably close to the Bismarck for the AA support in case the CV came back. And Kutuzov is now heading towards the base because now he has to come to us, but he's only got to delete that York really, so we need to be very, very careful. So all I'm going to try and do now for the rest of this game, for the last few minutes, is just harass this Kutuzov and just keep him away from our cap, keep him away from our ships, and keep him away from that York more than anything else, and try and stay as central as possible so I can put out any planes I need to. Now we did drop the Kutuzov and we got nothing for that. We pulled the bombers out from the run and then we sent them back to the CV. As you see there, they were pulling out from that run and they've disappeared from the minimap. We've lost those. So I grabbed the Wildcat, the rockets, because they're not too bad for starting the fires, but really it's to keep, because I know I've got 2 consumables there for my fighter. I just want to keep him out of the way. Now oddly we don't see the Ranger again for a little while. I'm not too sure why. I was in the process of telling the York he should probably turn away from the cap there, but I wasn't being as mindful of where my CV hull was going itself. I did say it was a mistakes were made video, or let's make mistakes, and yes, this is our mistake being made now, is I'm concentrating on trying to keep these 2 guys alive, as well as trying to spot this Kutuzov for the Bismarck as well at the same time. I'm not paying enough attention to what my boat's doing, and that could cause problems in a little while. So we do find the Kutuzov. We are a short stack formation, as we can see we've only got 5 fighters in here, but we're going to commit to try and get a good rocket strike, try and get a fire off of this Kutuzov. We don't get the fire, we get 1,800 damage. Disappointingly, we're under heavy flak attack again. But we're on this run, we might as well commit into this, because once they've dropped, the planes will immediately climb straight up to rescue altitude, because your final squadron, you can't control them out from any attack. Now this is the point here, I said I've just realised my CV hull has got into range as well. It doesn't show the change of course, it doesn't show you when you pull the mini-map up, but I do hit M and start whacking some waypoints in a little while ago to turn the CV away. And now I've got my torpedo bombers up, because I need to make this Kutuzov turn away quickly. We're going to try going again. As we can see, the flak's pretty heavy. We're taking massive damage on the way through. Plane health is very low. That squadron's peeled off. They're heading back. I'm going to try and keep these boys out and about for a while, because at this tier we don't get a hill, which is a shame. But we do manage to get 1 torpedo strike on the Kutuzov, and we did get the flood as well, which he had to damage con immediately. So we're going to commit these planes as well, because the Kutuzov is now going away from the cap, which was the objective of the torpedo drop, to make him turn. And with 33 seconds to go, we've just got to try and hold on as long as we can. And we do get another torpedo hit into him, which I wouldn't say rescues our damage count, but it brings it up a little bit more. It is a tier 6 CV, this is a tier 8 game. The fact that we've actually been able to contribute anything really with any planes is a surprise, but this was the role we were reduced to in this game because our offensive capability is not strong enough to take on these tier 8 ships, tier 8 AA flak in a one-on-one encounter. Now we're doing the same again. We know he's flooded, the time was gone, but we were going to try and just go for that last fire. And that would see us out of the tier 6 Ranger. So we did okay. We got a reasonable score out of this game. Not a huge amount of damage. As you see, we lost 57 of our aircraft, which isn't ideal. But sometimes that's the game. There's not a lot you can do about it. We did the best we could. We tried. This was a tier 6 game. And next up we'll be looking at the tier 6 Ryujo, which was also in an up tier game and looked a little bit different to this one. So straight up is a tier 6 Ryujo game. Again, we've been up tier to tier 8. There is some tier 7 ships in here as well, but it's 2 tier 6 CVs aside. So we're going to have to play a slightly different battle. Again, this is going to be more on the support than the damage side, and what we was trying to achieve during the game and how we were trying to go about achieving a win. This is a domination game as opposed to a standard battle, so this is about supporting the caps, supporting our DDs, trying to keep them alive and keeping the other tier 6 CVs away. So plane for plane we have a better chance of being able to assist. On the AA side and attacking ships, again we're going to struggle with that, and we are going to be costed our aircraft as well, but it doesn't mean that you can't contribute to the game. Spoiler alert, later on in the game we will see Kagero, which is pretty prominent in the current meta, chasing me across the map and losing his entire life doing so. That was a single engagement kill, so that one we'll look at in a little bit more detail later on in the game. But for the early part of this match, it's pretty much the same. Now, I tend to favour taking off of rocket planes and going for a little scout around. Some do torpedoes, some do bombers, it's whatever you really fancy, to be honest. My reason to take rockets at the start of the game is purely to strike at DDs and try and harass them immediately. With the torpedoes, it's not as easy to hit a moving DD. And as I'm in a Japanese CV this time round, going with AP dive bombers isn't going to get the kind of damage we want to look for either. So as we can see, we're hovering around the sea cap at the moment, and we have just spotted the lightning. I've dropped a plane over there because now we've got one of ours coming in, and it was just to help him in case CV come back. Normally I don't drop them that early, but owing to where their flight was and what was coming in, I thought it would probably be wise just to help the mass get into the cap, and at least he can smoke up to contest the cap now. Because I didn't get to the lightning quick enough to push him away from the cap. He made it in, and he made it into smoke. But he is a British DD, so we're going to hang around for a little while, because that smoke cloud isn't going to last very long. And the fact that it doesn't last very long means that we can also move our way around. And you'll notice there that we've shot down a couple of aircraft and some other planes have been shot down. Now that battle is happening at the top of the map in A7 on top of my CV. One of their carriers has brought a flight of planes up there and dropped a fighter group off over the top of my CV hull. I can only imagine he's done that to try and highlight where I am to his teammates, but none of them are in range to do anything yet. So we went for a blind run there just to try and see where the lightning was, and he'd already moved out. But he has moved forwards now, so we are going to try and keep him spotted. Now his AA guns are firing, so that does make life a little bit easier. So we do manage to get a fire on him. We get a little bit of damage off of him as well, and that's forced him out of the cap. That's forced him away from the cap, so the mass is now capping. But I want to keep the lightning spotted for a little bit. Fortunately, he's open fire as well, so he's staying visible. We can't go too close because of that Bismarck, and we can see the flat clouds coming up now. So we're going to turn away, move back up. The lightning's direction is away from the cap now. So we're going to move back over here, drop another fighter off over the lightning, because for the same reason those torpedo bombers were spotting our lightning. And we've sent the squad back, and now we're going to go and get some torpedo bombers up, because there's a large battleship coming in. At the moment we have lost Bravo. That was uncontested. That's disappointing. because we couldn't be in two places at once, and ideally I'd have liked to have been over the Bravo cap as well and tried to stop the DD from taking that, because that's a free cap and that's the points they're ticking and the points we're not ticking, and that could play a part later on in the game. So where possible, try and stop them from getting into the caps in the first place and try and push them away. So as I said earlier, tactically what I try to do is take rocket planes over to the top of the DDs, over the objectives, these capture points, and try and force them away from the capture points, or at least keep them lit up long enough to shoot. Now our early fleet movement wasn't good enough to actually get any fire on there, so we didn't bother. But we can see he's lit up on the Bravo. We know where he is now, but we're going to go in and just try and commit some planes to this Bismarck. Now, unfortunately our run out is going to take us over the Edinburgh. It's also going to take us through the fighters. So we're manoeuvring hard to try and turn away. We've got 2 torpedo strikes into the Bismarck, which we're quite pleased with, and a couple of floods. He's heavily overextended, and I'm just trying to get away from this flak. I was trying to get those ones sent back to the aircraft carrier, but unfortunately we lost them all, which was to be expected at that point. The point situation hasn't really changed too much, but those floods did kill the Bismarck. Right now, though, they've taken Alpha and Bravo, and Charlie is falling as well, so we've got quite a bit of work to do still. And this game isn't actually going to go on as long as you think. It won't make the full 15 minutes. That's a spoiler alert as well. So we're on our bombers now. We're going to run back down here because these are AP bombers, and if you drop them through the deck of a cruiser they do make a mess, assuming you can get close enough to the cruiser to make a mess. So because that DD was last seen shortly a while ago, I'm not sure where he is. I want to go and have a look for him because he could be pushing out to try and flank around and get behind between the Benson and the rest of the fleet and put some torpedoes in behind us. We have managed to find the Mayhem, which is fortunately he's managed to push back below Bravo. AP bombers aren't really going to do anything, so at least if I can just keep him spotted for a second. AA is firing though, and I need to be mindful of them torpedo bombers in case he was summoning a squadron. So we're keeping the Mayhem spotted. Now you notice he disappeared and then came back because his AA guns are off, so that makes it difficult for me to see. And now I'm closer to him, he's turned them off, which is a sensible thing to do, and as I go outside of his AA range he should be thinking about turning them off again. But I'm just going to hover overhead for the time being, trying to get this guy taken care of. I've called target on him, but somebody else has decided they fancy the Baltimore instead. But this guy's been spotted and harassed, and he needs to be taken care of. So now he's going for his smoke, which is going to be a problem because we are going to lose sight on him. He's got a lot of fire coming in, but he's disappeared now, and that's not very helpful. Now they are down a few ships, fortunately.
Taking fire.
That has helped. We are now contesting Bravo. We are going to have a little look at this Baltimore, but the damage we're taking on the planes, I'm not even sure. Yeah, we dropped at high altitude there just because we wouldn't have been able to complete the dive. Pulled them out, got them clear of the flak, and then sent them back to the CV. I haven't moved the CV, but you'll notice again, as I did in the last game, I moved this hull backwards. And at this point I am just starting to think about moving the hull forwards now to support the push and bring all the planes and everything closer to Charlie. We are going through B, so I grabbed some torpedo bombers because there's some big boats around there. We're going to go back down to Bravo and we're going to try and push through and just help them spot anything on the other side, spot any threats, maybe spot that other DD. Now that I didn't notice at this point in the game, but it will be relevant as I did point out earlier on, but around G3 is that Kagero. He's not been spotted for a very, very long time, and that could be quite concerning. But at this point in the game I hadn't noticed how relevant that was going to be, because I'm just focused on just trying to help the boys bring home the bacon here. Now the Gnez pushed into that Mayhan because we knew he was still sitting in the smoke. He's managed to avoid his torpedoes, and he's managed to take care of him. That's another DD out of the game. There's one left. Unfortunately for him, he is in a bit of a crossfire between that Nelson and the Baltimore, but he's not coming under plane attack yet. But I am loitering around here with the intention of dropping some planes off for him. Now we're in targets of opportunity, and one of them was this Colorado, who is separated a little bit from the fleet. I know we're going to take a fair bit of flak damage. We adjusted on the bomb run because he was slowing down a lot. Managed to get a decent drop out on him. Both torpedoes have hit. but we've not got any floods. But he's under heavy fire now. So I'm just manoeuvring the aircraft around for another run at him. At worst, I was trying to get down his nose here and make him turn into the torpedoes, which he did, because now he was giving full broadside to the rest of our ships. And the Gunners was able to take care of him with his secondaries. And I've just noticed those little red dots appearing up by my CV hull off the right hand side, off the starboard side should I say. So unless they came from a torpedo bomber, that means there's something else loitering around here. And there it is, the Kagero has made his way all the way up the map to come and hunt down the two CVs. Little turn there, and yep, there we go, he's in the middle of our view. We are heading over to him. Now we have AP bombers on board, and you'll notice I've sent them straight back to the aircraft carrier. They're no use to me to deal with a Kagero. I need rocket planes for this. Torpedoes you can use, but the chances of striking and manoeuvring DD at speed are very, very slim. Rockets are going to give me damage, but our Ryujo here, he's not moving. He's not paying attention to what's going on here. He's not trying to move his hull. So now we're going to have to deal with this Kagero. So this is going to be there's going to be a good few minutes of taking care of this, but this is the current meta now. So DDs will drive through a cap, give up the objectives where he should have been fighting around B to help his team, and they just come and hunt the CVs down. Now if you're going to get yourself isolated against a CV, bearing in mind even with a tier 6 CV against a tier 8 destroyer, if you're going to invite the relentless attacks and you're going to take damage, you're going to get dealt with eventually, unless you deal with the CV first. But he's not supporting his team by being up here working on me. The only positive I would take from this if I was him is that while I'm having to deal with him, I am not able to get down and support my team, and that you couldn't do, or rather you could do before in the RTS version. I would probably have sent one of the fighter squadrons over the top of this Kagero to keep an eye on him while I was bringing out my bombers for him, but I'd have had another fighter squadron still helping clear up around the other caps. But I'm fully committed to having to deal with this guy now. So we're already on our last lot of runs. We've taken quite a bit of damage off of him already. The hull is already moving to get away from him. The planes have gone back because we haven't managed to lose any to his AA, and we're just going to have to keep cycling the aircraft. We're 100 points behind at the moment. We do have 2 caps now though, and this Kagero's taken himself completely out of the game. We have lost one of our CVs, they've lost one of theirs, so air superiority is going to change a little bit now. But now it's just, you know, these 2 CVs are really just dealing with what's going on around them and not really dealing with the rest of our fleet. Another 2 ships have gone down from either side, the numbers are declining, but I'm all about this Kagero, who's obviously going to keep coming for me, so I have to take care of him. So we've got more rocket planes coming in, dropping just off of his bow there. It's a shame we can't see the reticle. His engine's out, he's on fire. That was a decent hit, and we're just going to have to keep on dealing with this guy, which is a shame because I'd like to be further down the map. Now a few ships have gone down further down, so they're down to their last 3. We've now taken the points lead in this game, and this Kagero's influence on the game, why he could have impacted what he was doing further down around Alpha and Bravo, he didn't. He come up here, and this is the kind of play that will inevitably cost your team a win. Throwing away a destroyer to go and chase a CV that's nowhere near and then not achieving your objective isn't going to win you a match. If he'd have been around there dropping his torpedoes off around Bravo, taking care of the Bravo objective, then they'd have had a better chance of winning this match. And we can see now he's very low on health. Unfortunately I still haven't got him down, and that was my third wave of planes. But because of the distance to the engagement, I'm able to get the planes back to the CV. You'll see them coming into land there, and I'm able to take off with another full squadron again. Because he's coming at me, I'm sending the planes and they're coming back, returning and being rearmed, and we can send them back up. Which is what you've been able to do before. The closer you were to the aircraft carrier, the closer you could rearm. But his play unfortunately has cost him dearly. So we're going to run him for the final time, I believe, here, put our rockets in, and he's taken care of. 47,968 damage in a tier 8 game. That's not too bad, it's not brilliant, but we still got one more CV out there to take care of. We're down in Charlie now, so I think we're going to go and have a little look around, see if we can find this Graf Zeppelin, because the sooner we take care of him, the sooner the game's over. And that's how quickly a game changes. If you're going to be overly aggressive in the CV, throw your planes at everything and not support the team play, then you're not going to be able to help with the objectives. On the flip side, of course, as we've seen there, if you do isolate ships, which is what you need to do, you need to plan your attack runs, isolate the ships and then work around them there, and then you can get some damage in. We saw that when we hit the Bismarck earlier in the cap. We was able to torpedo him. We did lose some planes, but not all of them. The same for the Colorado. We could torpedo him, but we could manoeuvre him. And by manoeuvre, I mean we was able to make him turn the side of his ship to broadside, which enabled our attacking ships to come in and do the damage. And the Kagero was the different view there, was a single one-on-one engagement with a rocket, so we had to take care of business there separately. We have found, I do apologise, it's not a Draft 7, it was the Ryujo. So I'm attacking my brother CV, but I'm not attacking here, I'm just loitering now. Dropped a fighter squadron there, just a little bit out of his AA bubble, just so that my teammates can see the Ryujo there. And then I'm going to just try and see if we can start a fire, get his damage comm running, force his fighter squadrons to come up, try and engage his fighter squadrons and bring them down so the next consumable wouldn't be available immediately. We're going to lose those. I accepted that. We went for the torpedo bombers because that's the best chance of us getting some maximised damage on him at this point. We could have got him with some AP bombers as well. That would have been a choice at this point. But because we managed to run his damage con, I wanted to try at least go for a flood and bring him out from where he was, which we've done. He's now being lit by the Cleveland, so his chances of finishing this game aren't particularly bright. And we have helped to turn this one into a victory. Obviously, it's not all a one-man element. It is for the other 11 people on your team, and sometimes it just all works. But the more you support your team, and that works for every class, the better your opportunities are and your chances are for winning the game. Now, the current meta, as we said, is for this chasing the CV around the map. I still prefer to play how we did before, play an objective-based game and play the objectives, and then you've got a much better chance of winning the game. So as we can see there, we managed with 53,000 damage, 9,000 base, which isn't too bad. We managed to finish second with a decent base score behind the Cleveland, so we obviously had a reasonable contribution level, and we only lost 30 aircraft for our trouble in that game, so that's not too bad after all. I have been Captain Bravadoh. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment to the videos below. Until we sing again.